Welcome back to the studio. You're watching Eye on Africa here on France 24. I'm Shona Bhattacharya. Let's look at our top stories in this edition. African leaders are meeting in the Ethiopian capital. The African Summit is holding its 29th summit with financing questions at the top of the agenda. Our team at the summit met up with some of the continent's movers and shakers, including Geoffrey Onyeama, the Nigerian foreign minister. He spoke to France 24 about the president's ongoing health speculations, as well as U.S. involvement in the region. And in Ivory Coast, authorities are clamping down on illegal gold mining. Residents looking for extra revenue have dug unauthorized pits, but they may be undercutting the country's economy in the process. It's day one of the African Union gathering in Ethiopia. Leaders from around the continent traveled to the 29th summit with one thing on their minds: financing. Last year, the AU got 60% of its budget from foreign funding. Some have proposed a 0.2% tax that would be imposed on all imports that enter a member state from outside the union. Critics say the practicalities of such a move would be complex. France 24's François Picard is covering the summit for us over in Addis. François, tell us more about the meeting.
Yeah, that is one of the key issues, asserting Africa's sovereignty by paying its own bills. And that is certainly the key sticking point as we head into day two. Now, there are simple ways to streamline. One of them is to stop having summits every 2 years. That looks like it's consensual. But as you mentioned, there's less consensus when it comes to this 0.2% tax. And of course, Shona, there's the question of those that are there and those that aren't. Among those that are absent is Nigeria's president. The leader of Africa's most populous nation has been ill, and the longer he stays out of the public eye, the more people are worried. And it's not the upbeat remarks of Nigeria's foreign minister that are going to change that until Muhammadu Buhari does appear in public. Here's what Geoffrey Onyeama had to say.
He's doing very well. We're expecting him back quite soon. So that's good news.
Let me ask your thoughts as well on this G5 summit that took place in Bamako. The idea of putting together a multilateral task force to patrol the Sahel region. You have a task force, obviously, with neighboring states already. What advice could you give the G5?
Well, this force will be complementary to what we have, the multinational joint task force. The advice we would give them is, well, of course, you need to share intelligence. You need to invest in really the equipment. It's important, and stay with it, stay the course. I can tell you that from our experience with the multinational joint task force, we've invested a lot. Nigeria's put in over $100 million, but you do have to, because and also you need sophisticated equipment, night vision equipment, drones, mine clearing equipment, and they're all very, very expensive. So my advice is that don't do it unless you're really going to do it well, and that means put in the resources.
On that point, there was a pointed dig by the French president to the Americans, saying they need them to step up when it comes to helping to patrol the Sahel. Do you feel as though now with the Trump administration, they're only represented here by their ambassador to Ethiopia? What's your reaction to that?
No, the Americans have been extremely cooperative with us in the fight against Boko Haram.
Are they losing interest now that Trump is in power?
We haven't got that sense at all. No, they've been still very committed, and on the contrary, we've been looking to get some equipment from the United States, Super Tucanos, to be precise, planes that have night vision equipment and that we believe could be possible game changers. Now, we've been running into some difficulties in the U.S. Congress, actually, as it so happens. And this has been going on for a couple of years. But but this administration, the Trump administration, has actually shown us a determination to help us get that equipment. So, we can only just say how happy and grateful we are with their very positive attitude. So they are not getting tired. They've been very positive.
Francois, it looks like Geoffrey Onyeama has high hopes for President Trump.
High hopes, but you've got to contextualize a bit. The sale of those 12 attack helicopters has stalled several times. It was actually one of Barack Obama's last acts in office to stop it on January the 17th when the Nigerian military mistakenly bombed a displaced persons camp. This is in the northeast, the area hit by Boko Haram. The idea is, should we be giving this money, say the Americans, to a military that's corrupt and is inefficient and is just going to turn public opinion further against them? The attack helicopters in question, then, they represent half the annual budget of Nigeria's military, says one former State Department source to the New York Times. So it's a lot of money. And, of course, there's that question of trust. It had started to build up with Muhammadu Buhari coming to power, himself a former military man. But when the head of the U.S. Military Command for Africa went to Nigeria in February, the man he was speaking to is the one that was here today, Nigeria's vice president. He is the acting president right now, as Buhari is out ill.
Francois Picard reporting there live from Addis Ababa. Thank you so much for that. Kenyans go to the polls in over a month, and EU observers are already on site. Their mission is to keep an eye on the polls on August 8th as voters cast their ballots either for current President Uhuru Kenyatta or his longtime rival Raila Odinga. Parliamentary, senatorial, and other elections are being held that day as well. The observers warn, however, of possible electoral violence.
It is no secret that there are concerns about the possible outbreak of violence. This is not inevitable, and it is clear that it would create a situation where everybody loses. It is in turn our responsibility as the EU Election Observation Mission to make an honest and impartial assessment of the integrity of the process and the extent to which people's political rights are upheld.
Violence following the disputed 2007 elections led to the deaths of over 1,100 people and displaced 600,000 more. Now let's take a look at what else is making headlines around the continent and a rare donation to the African Union. Robert Mugabe handed the organization a $1 million check to help end the, quote, donor dependency syndrome. The money was raised by auctioning cattle, of which the 93-year-old donated 300. Rains were plentiful this year in Zimbabwe, and with the bumper harvest, the country is expected to be self-sufficient for the first time in years. But last year, more than 4 million people were in need of food aid. Too dangerous to live in or too expensive to renovate? Opposition members in Zambia's parliament are up in arms about President Edgar Lungu's plans to build a state house, his official residence. The works would cost $20 million US, money which critics say would be better spent on other sectors like health and education. The new building would replace the current state house that dates back to the 1930s. Aiming to change Uganda's constitution, a new amendment bill has been published in the official government paper, the Uganda Gazette. It can now go on to Parliament. The measure would remove the presidential age limit, which currently stands at 75. Current President Yoweri Museveni will be 76 in the next election in 2021. In Ivory Coast, illegal gold mines have multiplied. Ivorians, as well as foreigners, have been engaging in smuggling and racketeering to make a living. But authorities have struggled to shut them down, as they say the illegal market is chipping away at the country's riches. Shirley Sitbon has the story.
Working in this Tongon mine may be illegal, but it's anything but easy. First, the workers have to pull hundreds of rocks from deep shafts. Then they need to pound them until they turn to powder. Put them in these machines, wash the ore. If they're lucky enough to find gold, they get to sell it to the best buyer.
In Burkina Faso, the price is higher. It can go up to 30,000 West African francs.
That's $51 per gram, more than twice of what they can hope for in Ivory Coast. And that's part of the problem for authorities. They say illegal gold miners are stealing the country's natural resources. They don't pay taxes and disrupt the work of legal mining companies.
These people come and set up in areas where they don't have the right to operate. They take our concessions, for example, where we have a government license. We can't work because these people are occupying the site illegally.
Located on the gold-rich Birimian belt, Ivory Coast has been aiming to expand its mining industry to diversify its economy. Production has gone up from 7 tons in 2010 to 22 tons last year. But many Ivorians who live in poverty feel they're not getting their share of the nugget. By working in illegal mines for just a few weeks, they earn more than during a whole year in cocoa plantations.
And that's the end of this edition. Do stay tuned. There's more news coming up next with Mark Owen. Do stay with us on France 24.